Deep in the fertile soils of Asia grows a remarkable testimony to persistence, the Chinese bamboo tree. For 5 full years, this extraordinary plant shows absolutely nothing above ground. No tender shoots breaking through the earth, no hint of green, not a single leaf, just barren, unchanging soil. The farmer must water, fertilize, and tend to what appears to be empty earth day after day, season after season. Many would abandon such a seemingly futile task. After all, 5 years is a long time to nurture nothing but faith in empty soil. But those who understand the bamboo's secret know something profound is happening beneath the surface. In those silent years, the bamboo develops an intricate root system that will ultimately support its explosive growth. Then in the 6th year, something miraculous occurs. In just 6 weeks, the bamboo shoots upward, growing an astonishing 90 feet into the sky. You're here today because you're standing in that 5th year. Perhaps you've been watering and tending to your dreams, your goals, your ambitions, and seeing nothing break through the surface. The soil of your efforts appears barren. The landscape of your struggle seems unchanged. And that quiet voice inside you whispers that perhaps it's time to stop watering, stop believing, stop trying. But before you make that decision, let me share with you why this moment, this precise moment when you're considering giving up, might be exactly 6 weeks away from your own extraordinary breakthrough. That gnawing ache in your stomach when you look at how far you still have to go. The weight of doubt that sits heavy on your shoulders at 3 a.m., whispering that maybe you're not cut out for this after all. The burning shame of watching others sprint past you while you're still stumbling through your first steps. I know these feelings intimately because they're not just your story. They're woven into the very fabric of human achievement. 20 years ago, I stood in my empty apartment, surrounded by foreclosure notices and rejection letters. My bank account showed negative balance. My relationships were strained to breaking point, and my ambitious business venture had collapsed spectacularly. Society has a way of making us feel isolated in our failures, as if we're the only ones who've ever miscalculated, misstepped, or misunderstood how hard the path would be. But here's what I've learned since that dark night. The urge to quit is not a sign of weakness. It's a universal checkpoint on the road to extraordinary achievement. Take a moment and consider this. Thomas Edison's teachers told him he was too stupid to learn anything. He was fired from his first 2 jobs for being non-productive. As an inventor, he made 1,000 unsuccessful attempts at inventing the light bulb. J.K. Rowling was a divorced single mother on welfare when she wrote Harry Potter, having been rejected by 12 different publishers. Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks, was turned down by banks 242 times when seeking initial loans. The difference between these names we now know and the countless others we've never heard of isn't talent, luck, or circumstances. It's simply this. They stayed in the game one day longer than their urge to quit. They understood something crucial that I'm about to share with you. Something that transformed my own journey from that empty apartment to where I stand today. The desire to give up isn't your enemy. It's not a character flaw or a sign of inadequacy. It's actually a threshold, a gateway that appears right before every major breakthrough in your life. And understanding this truth changes everything about how we view our struggles. Rock bottom has a disturbing way of introducing you to parts of yourself you never knew existed. It strips away the comfortable illusions, the safety nets, the backup plans, until you're left with nothing but the raw essence of who you are. And while society has taught us to fear this place, to avoid it at all costs, I'm here to tell you something counterintuitive. Rock bottom might be the most powerful foundation you'll ever build upon. Think of a space shuttle for a moment. The most critical phase of its journey isn't when it's soaring through the stars. It's the launch. The moment of maximum pressure, maximum resistance, maximum fire. The shuttle must exert more force, consume more fuel, and endure more stress in those first few minutes than in all the rest of its journey combined. Without this intense pressure, without this moment of extreme resistance, it would never break free from Earth's gravitational pull. Your current struggle, that place where you feel crushed by the weight of circumstances, is not your ending, it's your launch pad. The pressure you're feeling isn't destroying you, it's compressing you into something stronger, like carbon transformed into diamonds under intense pressure. This isn't just motivational rhetoric, it's a scientific reality of human adaptation and growth. Consider the phenomenon known as post-traumatic growth. Research has shown that people who endure severe challenges often develop enhanced mental capabilities, increased resilience, deeper appreciation for life, stronger personal relationships, heightened sense of purpose, and expanded understanding of their own potential. The trauma itself doesn't create these benefits. It's the process of pushing through it that rewires our neural pathways for greater strength. When Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and having no original ideas, he didn't just hit rock bottom, he began digging. His first animation company went bankrupt. He slept in his office and ate dog food to survive. But it was precisely this period of intense struggle that forged his most innovative ideas. The pressure of necessity forced him to think differently, to imagine solutions that comfortable people would never conceive. That's the hidden power of rock bottom. It eliminates the luxury of half-hearted attempts. When you have nothing left to lose, you find yourself capable of efforts you never thought possible. Your creativity expands because it must. Your determination deepens because there's no other choice. Your true potential emerges because all the layers of comfort that kept it hidden have been stripped away. So if you're at that point where everything seems lost, where the weight feels unbearable, recognize this moment for what it really is. Not an ending, but a beginning. Not a tragedy, but a training ground. Success stories love to skip the messy middle. We celebrate the moment an athlete breaks the world record, but rarely see the thousands of hours they spent training in empty gyms when no one was watching. We applaud the entrepreneur's IPO, but overlook the decade they spent eating ramen noodles and working out of their garage. This selective storytelling has created one of the most dangerous myths of our time, the illusion of overnight success. Let me share some sobering statistics that rarely make headlines. According to research from the Harvard Business Review, it takes the average entrepreneur 17 years to create a profitable company that can be sold. The typical Nobel Prize-winning discovery isn't made by a lone genius in a flash of inspiration. It's the result of 20-plus years of methodical research, failed experiments, and relentless iteration. Even viral sensations that seem to explode out of nowhere usually represent years of obscure content creation before that one lucky break. Take Tyler Perry, for instance. Before he became a household name, he spent 7 years performing in small community theaters, often to audiences of less than 30 people. He lived in his car intermittently, rewrote his first play 12 times, and faced rejection after rejection. When people call him an overnight success, they're really talking about year 8, conveniently forgetting the 2,920 days that came before. The reality is that success doesn't arrive like a lightning bolt. It accumulates like sediment, layer by layer, day by day. Each small action, each tiny improvement, each seemingly insignificant choice builds upon the last. It's not sexy. It's not headline-worthy, but it's the truth that every achiever knows intimately. This understanding is crucial because right now you might be in year 6 of what will eventually be labeled an overnight success. You might be halfway through your 17 years, looking around and seeing no evidence that you're on the right path. The temptation to give up is strongest precisely when you're in these invisible years, the years that the success stories gloss over, the years that test not just your skills, but your faith in the process itself. Your brain is the most sophisticated adaptation machine ever created. When neuroscientists study resilience, they discover something remarkable. Every time you push through difficulty, your neural pathways physically reorganize themselves to become stronger. This process, known as neuroplasticity, means your brain literally rewires itself in response to challenges. Consider what happens to your muscles during intense physical training. The microscopic tears and stress you put them through don't weaken them. They trigger a biological response that makes the muscle fibers grow back stronger. Your brain operates on a remarkably similar principle. When you face adversity and persist, your neural pathways don't just recover, they become more robust, more efficient, and more capable of handling future challenges. Research from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology has shown that when people overcome significant obstacles, their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for problem solving and emotional regulation, actually becomes denser with neural connections. This means that every time you choose to persist instead of giving up, you're not just solving the current problem. You're literally building a more resilient brain for future challenges. This biological enhancement extends beyond just mental toughness. Studies have shown that people who regularly push through difficulties experience improved immune system function, better stress management capabilities, and enhanced cognitive flexibility. The very act of persisting through challenges triggers the release of neurochemicals like norepinephrine and dopamine, which not only help you perform better under pressure, but also strengthen your brain's ability to handle future stress. What's even more fascinating is the concept of stress inoculation. Just as a vaccine works by exposing your immune system to a manageable version of a threat, allowing it to build defenses, facing and overcoming challenges actually immunizes your brain against future setbacks. Each obstacle you tackle becomes a psychological vaccination, preparing you for bigger challenges ahead. Consider the remarkable case of Navy SEALs undergoing their infamous Hell Week training. Brain scans of candidates before and after this intense experience show dramatic changes in neural architecture. Those who complete the training don't just learn new skills. Their brains physically reorganize to become more stress-resistant, more focused, and more capable of handling extreme pressure. While your current challenges might not be as extreme as SEAL training, the principle remains the same. Your brain is adapting and strengthening with every obstacle you overcome. This isn't just theory, it's biological reality. Every time you feel like giving up but choose to continue, you're not just working toward your goal. You're actively upgrading your brain's operating system. You're building neural pathways that make resilience not just a choice, but a default response. The struggle you're facing right now isn't wearing you down, it's building you up, preparing you for even greater achievements ahead. In nature, there's a profound difference between a bear's hibernation and an animal's death. One is a strategic renewal, the other a permanent end. Yet in our relentless drive forward, we often fail to recognize this crucial distinction in our own journeys. Let me introduce you to a concept that transformed my understanding of persistence: strategic recalibration. Consider the story of Instagram, but not the version you typically hear. Before Instagram became a billion-dollar platform, it was a failing app called Verge, a complicated check-in app that was losing users daily. The founders, Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger, didn't stubbornly persist with their failing idea, nor did they completely give up. Instead, they took a strategic pause. They analyzed their data, discovered that people were mainly using their photo sharing feature, and made the bold decision to strip away everything else. This wasn't giving up, it was stepping back to leap forward. The same principle applies to your journey. There's a vital difference between surrendering to defeat and executing a tactical retreat to strengthen your position. When you're feeling overwhelmed, when progress seems impossible, you have three options: push forward blindly, give up entirely, or take a strategic pause to reassess and realign. This strategic pause isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's the quarterback calling a timeout to read the defense. It's the chess master stepping back to see the whole board. It's the entrepreneur reviewing market feedback before pivoting to a more viable approach. These moments of apparent inaction are actually crucial periods of internal growth and strategic realignment. The key lies in how you use this pause. It's not about Netflix binges or mindless distraction. It's about intentional reflection, honest assessment, and strategic planning. Ask yourself, are you pushing against the wrong wall? Is there a smarter path to your destination? Are you measuring progress by the right metrics? Sometimes what feels like failure is actually life's way of redirecting you to a better approach. Remember this crucial distinction. Giving up is an emotional response driven by temporary feelings of defeat, while a strategic pause is a calculated decision driven by wisdom and long-term thinking. One closes doors permanently. The other opens new ones you couldn't see before. Your story isn't just about you. Every breakthrough, every moment of persistence, every refusal to surrender ripples outward in ways you can't yet imagine. When Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on that bus in Montgomery, she wasn't just making a personal choice, she was altering the trajectory of history. When Marie Curie persisted in her research despite being denied access to traditional laboratories because of her gender, she wasn't just pursuing personal curiosity, she was paving the way for generations of women in science. Consider the case of Dashrath Manjhi, known as the Mountain Man of India. When his wife died because the nearest hospital was on the other side of a mountain, he didn't accept this as fate. For 22 years, he worked alone, using only a hammer and chisel to carve a path through that mountain. People called him mad. They mocked his seemingly impossible task. But when he finally completed his road in 1982, he had reduced the distance between his village and the nearest medical facility from 55 kilometers to 15 kilometers. Today, that road serves thousands, saves countless lives, and stands as a testament to the power of one person's refusal to give up. Your current struggle might not involve carving through mountains, but its impact could be equally profound. Think about the young person who might witness your persistence and learn that setbacks aren't final. Consider the colleague who's silently watching how you handle adversity, drawing strength from your example. Imagine the family member who will tell your story of resilience to their children, creating a legacy of determination that spans generations. We often make the mistake of thinking our struggles are solely personal battles, but every time you choose to continue despite difficulty, you're actually contributing to a larger narrative. You're adding to humanity's collective evidence that impossible things become possible through persistence. Your story becomes part of the arsenal that future generations will draw upon when facing their own moments of doubt. This isn't abstract philosophy, it's practical reality. The Wright brothers' persistence gave us flight. Fleming's refusal to ignore an apparent laboratory mistake gave us penicillin. Every major human advancement, every significant social change, every breakthrough that improved lives began with someone who refused to give up when giving up seemed like the only rational choice. Right now, your unfinished story sits at a crucial juncture. The chapter you're writing today, through your choice to persist, might be exactly the chapter someone else needs to read tomorrow to find their own courage. Your current struggle, transformed through persistence into eventual triumph, might become the very story that prevents someone else from giving up in their darkest moment. The gap between knowing you shouldn't give up and actually persisting through difficult moments requires more than motivation. It demands practical strategies. Let me share with you the concrete tools that transform abstract resilience into daily progress. Techniques that have been proven effective through both scientific research and real-world application. First, let's understand the power of micro-progress. Your brain's reward system responds more powerfully to frequent small wins than occasional large ones. This isn't just psychology, it's biochemistry. Each small achievement releases dopamine, strengthening your motivation pathways. Instead of focusing on the mountain ahead, create ridiculously small daily targets. Want to write a book? Start with 50 words a day. Launching a business? Begin with one phone call each morning. These micro steps might seem insignificant, but they leverage what neuroscientists call success momentum. The tendency for small accomplishments to snowball into larger achievements. The second tool is what I call the 5-minute rule. When you feel overwhelmed by a task, commit to just 5 minutes of focused effort. The science behind this is fascinating. Your brain's resistance to difficult tasks typically peaks in anticipation rather than execution. By committing to just 5 minutes, you bypass the brain's threat response system. Once you're actually engaged in the task, a psychological principle called behavioral momentum takes over. Objects and people in motion tend to stay in motion. Here's a critical strategy that few discuss: systematic documentation of progress. Every evening, record 3 specific pieces of information: what you accomplished, no matter how small, what you learned, and what you'll tackle tomorrow. This isn't just record keeping, it's neural reinforcement. Studies show that the act of recording progress actually strengthens your brain's reward pathways, making future effort more likely and more effective. Another powerful tool is what behavioral scientists call environmental design. Your willpower isn't just a mental resource, it's deeply influenced by your physical environment. Remove friction from positive behaviors and add friction to negative ones. Want to exercise in the morning? Sleep in your workout clothes? Trying to focus on work? Put your phone in another room in airplane mode. These aren't tricks. They're strategic adaptations that conserve your mental energy for what truly matters. Perhaps the most counterintuitive tool is the failure quota. Set a minimum number of failures you must achieve each month. This completely reverses the normal psychology of failure. Instead of something to avoid, failure becomes a sign of progress, an indication that you're pushing your boundaries. When SpaceX engineers are testing new rockets, they actually celebrate certain failures because each one provides crucial data for improvement. Finally, implement what I call the non-negotiable hour. This isn't about time management. It's about identity reinforcement. Choose 1 hour each day that's absolutely sacred to your goal. During this time, you don't decide whether to work on your goal. That decision was made in advance. This removes the daily drain of decision fatigue and builds an unshakable foundation of consistency. These tools work together as a system, each supporting the others. The micro-progress feeds into your documentation, which reinforces your non-negotiable hour, which helps you meet your failure quota, all while your environmental design makes each step easier than the last. The most profound shift in human behavior occurs when we stop seeing our future self as a stranger and start treating them as someone we're responsible for protecting. This isn't abstract philosophy. It's a powerful psychological framework backed by compelling research in temporal psychology. When you stand at the crossroads of giving up, you're not just making a decision for the person you are today. You're making a choice that will fundamentally shape the person you'll be tomorrow, next month, next year. Your future self is as real as any person you care about, and their experiences, their opportunities, their potential, all of it hinges on the decisions you make in moments like this. Think about it this way. Every morning, you wake up as the beneficiary of your past self's choices. Right now, you're either grateful to your past self or bearing the burden of their surrender. The question isn't just whether you can continue today. It's whether you're willing to pass the burden of giving up to your future self, knowing they'll have to live with the consequences of that choice. Remember that bamboo tree we spoke about at the beginning? In the time we've spent together today, somewhere in the world, thousands of bamboo trees have pushed through the soil, not because they suddenly decided to grow, but because they finally reached the moment when their years of underground preparation met their unwavering persistence. Your breakthrough follows the same natural law. The roots of your resilience have been growing stronger with every setback, every doubt, every moment you chose to continue despite seeing no progress. The invisible growth happening beneath the surface of your struggles is just as real as those bamboo roots. Today marks a critical choice point in your journey, not between success and failure, but between continuing to nurture your growth and abandoning everything you've already built beneath the surface. Your moment of breaking through might be tomorrow, next week, or next month, but it will never come if you stop nurturing your growth today.